I have no doubt that that's part of what I believe, at least, made the incident, the injury and stuff, potentially at least less of an issue than it could otherwise have been.
One of the things Lavelle talked about back then, the danger of going on a mission, was that you come back after preaching love and peace.
Mm-hmm.
How do you come back and play football?
Mm-hmm.
And I was determined. I'm going to come back. I believe in love and peace, but I'm going to play tough football.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit you. I might pick you up, but I'm going to hit you down on the ground first. And I remember loving those people down there. I love those people down there. The Nicaraguans, the Hondurans, the Costa Ricans, the Panamanians. Every country was different.
Yeah, yeah.
But periodically, because of our church's stance at the time regarding the priesthood, when a man or a young man was going to get the priesthood, we had to start asking them questions on their genealogy.
Dude, how did that work? I got to hear that.
That was hard.
What did they expect you to ask?
Well, as I recall, we kind of just, we talked about genealogy and the importance of temple work.
Right.
But then we were trying to reveal, do you have pictures? Do you have names? Where are they from? And it was more of a discovery on our part than a sharing, which is typically what missionaries are doing,
Right.
So it feels like all of a sudden we change from teaching and taking you along the path to, okay, now we have to find out something about that they're not even worried about.
Now we're going to be law enforcement. We're doing investigations.
Even though these are the people that you love and you care about tremendously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went through that. In fact, I had the most wonderful experience with my mission president and this was after my mission, because during our mission in 1977, we had some explosive growth in the church.
Yeah.
And everybody was getting excited about joining the church. And I remember it being an issue about, well, what do we do? Because all these Panamanians who are loving the church, that guy sure doesn't look like he's Latin American.
Yeah.
He looks African.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was one stake president in Panama who looked African, but he's a stake president. And so how do you tell, and we as missionaries, we're just kind of like, dang, confused.
Well, they love the Lord. They love the gospel. They believe they have testimonies.
Exactly.
I know exactly what you mean.
So later, Danny, this is after the 1978 revelation on the priesthood. I go down and I talk to my mission president because I saw things changing in 1977. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, President Eager in Pine, Arizona, I said, President Eager, back in 1976-77, when we were serving as missionaries down there, what was going on that the church was all of a sudden explosively growing in those areas where the priesthood may not have been able to keep flourishing? And he had some very interesting answers because he talked with people in Salt Lake City about, I don't know, the changes that were going to be taking effect.
Really?
And so it just affected me here. And so that now this is later, come back from my mission. It was January of 1978. I come and join you, and no revelation has been received yet, but Danny Frazier, member of the church, black man, African-American, is on the football team. What were your feelings about, I don't know, we don't need to talk about BYU, but the church? I mean, you were an active member of the church. But you couldn't hold the priesthood at the time. How did that affect you?
Dude, I got to tell you, for me, it was my mom. If she wouldn't have pushed, she didn't just encourage. She pushed.
And I knew she could push.
Yeah, you knew how she was.
Yeah.
And so after we joined the church, even knowing everything.
When did you join the church?
74. Like I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Tooele?
No, in Arizona.
Okay.
And then we moved to Utah a year later, maybe, something like that.
Okay.
But she always said, well, one day you're going to have the priesthood, so you better be ready. And, you know, I was at that age, teenage. I was growing up and, you know, hanging out, going out and whatnot. And so our pat excuse, because I don't know if you remember, but the meetings used to be spread out through the course of
the whole day.
Yeah. And so you'd get up in the morning.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. Every meal had a meeting. And priesthood usually was the morning meal, or the morning. And we'd be coming home late from having been out on a Saturday night, just, you know, dancing and hanging out and whatnot. She was like, get your butts up. Let's go. And we're like, yeah, but we can't hold the priesthood. I'm not going. And she's like, no, get up. You're going to go because one day you will be able to hold the priesthood. And we're like, yeah, right, Ma. You know, it was like the usual stuff. And I'll admit, she was probably successful a third of the time of getting my lazy butt up out of bed.
You and Mark?
Yep. Me and Mark, and we'd go, but not on any regular basis and not on any way that really was like based on any type of
devotion?
Yeah, nothing really like that. It was based mostly because, dude, I don't want Mom ticked at me, man. I'm just not going to put up with that this today.
Not today.
So that's why we went. And
what was your attitude, though? You couldn't hold the priesthood. Did you justify that in any way, or how did you feel?
I just told him to bite me. Isn't that horrible to say?
I mean, you're thinking that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, because this is going to sound dumb, I think, but growing up black, we did a lot of crap that we didn't want to do just because you just kind of had to. And I don't even know how to give you a good example of it, but there were just certain things that we just did because we knew we had to do. And it had been handed down to me from my grandparents. They did it. My mom did it. You know, my dad did it. You just
towed the line,
tolerated some crap, and you just did stuff sometimes just for no other reason than you're black. And, you know, I'm not going to let this ruin my day or tick me off.
But you defended, for example, if someone would call you Uncle Tom, if they called you an Uncle Tom back then, it seemed like you kind of just sloughed it off with a big smile, didn't let it bother you, but certainly inside those little jabs are hitting you. What justified in your mind? Did you have some joy about the church or the gospel?
Yeah. And that's kind of why we joined. I mean, I can't say I didn't have a testimony. I really can't. Because
you can't say you didn't have a testimony.
Yeah, that I didn't have one.
Okay.
Because I know I did because, you know, I just know the kind of person I was. And I wasn't like a mean person. I might have been angry, but I wasn't mean or anything, and I wasn't dumb. You know, when the missionary said, read the Book of Mormon and pray about it, I read the Book of Mormon, and I prayed about it, and I felt good about it. And my mom said, you feel good about this, don't you? Don't you? Don't you? Like, yeah, Mom, we do.
Sure we do.
I do. And so, you know, when it was time to make a decision about joining, you know, yeah, she gave us our own ability to choose, but she also said, you want to do this the right way, and we want to do this all together, and you want to make me happy, so we're all going to do it too. We're all going to do it together. So, you know, all my brothers and sisters who were 8 years old at the time, I think we all joined at one time.
Wow.
And all together. So, yeah, it was, for me, I had to think about it because being in Arizona, number one, everybody, all our friends, were mostly, not mostly, but I had a lot of friends that were black because I went to a high school kind of like yours. And boy, they told us about Mormons having horns, doing crazy stuff. And my mom made us go to seminary.
Really? Early in the morning, huh?
Yeah. So we would be at school before everybody else. And they're like, what are you doing here? We're like, we just had to get here early. We never told anybody we went to seminary.
That you were going to seminary?
And I never told a soul. Never told a soul. But no, she would make sure we got in the doors. She would drive us to
She didn't
seminary.
want you to go out the side door?
No, she didn't want me to go out the side door. She made me go in the seminary building and go to seminary, and then we went to high school. But what was weird when I got older, like when we were in Tooele, she didn't make me go to seminary. I didn't go through high school. But the crazy thing was, I was always in the gym. I honestly was working out somewhere. So that was kind of an excuse, but it was also what I did. I don't know, chasing
Were
girls
you
and all
football,
that.
basketball, what else?
Football, basketball, I ran track, I high jumped.
Wow.
And yeah,
What's your best high jump?
6'8".
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's still the record at Thule High.
Tuli.
But yeah, so I high jumped.
All right, we talked about Texas A&M.
Yeah,
That was a big change for you.
yeah.
Tell me about that and what happened the next year.
Well, the next year was like not even the next year, literally the next few months. I end up getting the surgery that takes some bone out of my hip and replaced the bone in my neck with the bone in my hip. And, guy named Dr. Marion Walker did the surgery. He was a cool dude. He was a white dude with an afro. It was really cool. And he worked on little kids, which in my case was appropriate. But
6'6" little kid.
yeah, a little kid. But he just said, we opened you up. And I think he told me the vertebrae in my neck had shattered into a bunch of little pieces and just literally.
But you had no nerve damage. So it shattered. I interrupted you. What did you say?
No,
it
no.
Shattered.
Yeah, I
And
had no nerve, nothing ever. I never lost any feeling anywhere. I never paralyzed for any length of time. I mean, but yeah. So he said they opened me up, and he just kind of smiled and goes, "And your vertebrae just fell into about 8-10 little pieces."
wow.
And I just thought, wow. And he goes,
How do they heal that? How do they fix that?
I don't know. He just said they took some bone out of my hip and made another vertebrae out of that and replaced the vertebrae that had been broken up with that. And I don't know how they did it.
So that's probably the problem with your golf game, because you got to land on that hip.
I think there's a little, disproportion there. I got to work on that, or blame the doc.
But that's amazing. He took bone out of your hip,
Stuck it in my
replaced the
neck.
vertebra, and then what was your healing time?
And so next thing I know, I'm in a soft cast. I mean, they didn't put the halo back on me. They put a soft neck brace on me, sent me home. And so I just recuperated at home, and they were like, don't move around, don't do that. The first thing you do when they tell you don't do it is try to do it. So I'm taking the brace off, and I'm moving around and looking in the
you go to the
mirror.
park and do the bumper cars.
I'll tell you how I knew I was okay, because I used to, after I felt better, and this was only like literally probably 2 months later, I thought I was going to play basketball at BYU, so I'd go play ball with Greg Kite and all those guys that would play over in the gym, and I was playing, And, you know, I'd only been out of the hospital. This was probably October, maybe November, something like that. And one day I'm going after a loose ball. And, you know, Greg Kite, man, he
He's a
had,
big boy.
yeah, and he was just rough and tumble all the time. And so he hip checks me. And head first with my head. He just threw his hip into my head. And, you know, I was like, boom. And I stopped and thought, well, that was my head. That was my neck. Whoa. And so I just kind of stood there. Yeah, everything worked. I wasn't paralyzed. I didn't
Work
feel
the dials
anything.
here and see if everything's okay.
For real. I was like, whoa. You know, nothing was out of place. And I thought, I'm good.
I have a similar
I'm good.
experience in high school. My high school, Cordova High School, was not very far from Elk Grove High School, where Bill Cartwright was the star.
Yeah.
And Bill Cartwright and I were in the same class. So
Really?
I was the football player who had to box him out. You know, we had some other taller guys, but they weren't as strong, you know, for boxing out. So I was covering Bill Cartwright. All I remember, speaking of your Greg Kite experience, is that dude bringing his arm down on top of my head on a rebound or something. And man, his elbows they're lethal. And he was known.
Too.
I read in the NBA how he had that, you know, people
Kind of
knew
rep.
it was. So anyway,
Yeah.
Greg Kite is likewise a big, big man, and just a simple hip check into your head. How scary would that be?
It was freaky. I honestly, you know, didn't know what to expect.
So you played a little basketball, but there was something happened after that you chose to do.
Yeah. Floyd and you and and Rob and y'all just all ganged up on me. And LaBelle, no, he didn't gang up on me, but it was like, hey, you ought to seriously consider going on a mission. And the good part about being roomies with you guys is I was able to ask questions and not really worry about getting, you know, the kind of not BS, but the pat answer that people would say, oh, it's the most wonderful time of your life. Oh, it's you know what I mean? I had asked you guys about it. Yeah. And you guys would tell me, oh, dude, it's hard. It's a lot of stuff you got to worry about. You got to work hard every day. It's like, you know, and you got to feel the spirit. You know what that is? I'm like, eh?
No, dude. Sorry.
I had no clue.
Get out of here.
I had no clue. No, I'm serious. You guys literally, and of course, Floyd, you know, he definitely.
Floyd was our equipment manager. Floyd Johnson was literally famous within our athletic department, especially with the football team, because number one, he was responsible for getting us our equipment. You know, so if you wanted a good pair of shoes or even a nice pair of socks, you needed to be in good standing with Floyd. But Floyd also kind of controlled this speaking circuit. So he would take athletes, especially returned missionaries, and send us out to do firesides and things all over the place.
Yep.
So Floyd was maybe one of the best. I don't know, what would you call him?
Influences, man.
He was an influencer among the football. So Floyd got a hold of you.
Yeah.
What happened?
And it was like you said, if you wanted anything, you had to go through Floyd. And that meant you're speaking somewhere. And so
You're going to Twilla.
Yeah,
and you're going to give a fireside.
We spoke probably at every junior high seminary around here. And we would, you know, we're like, Floyd, come on, man. It's like 6 a.m. I don't want to get up and go. And he goes, okay, well, there's going to be a cheerleader that's going to go there and speak too. And
okay, maybe I will.
And so he would get a cheerleader to go with us, and he'd be like, oh, don't worry, she'll come by and pick you up. Cheerleader coming to pick me up? I'm down. And so that's the, you know, and plus, like you said, you couldn't get a pair of shoes, you couldn't get a sock, you couldn't get your clothes washed. It was like that was the cost. But it was okay. And everybody did it.
Yeah.
That I knew of.
We were all good buddies with Floyd.
Oh yeah. Floyd took care of us. So, but yeah,
What did he talk to you about?
he would sit me down and just say, well, Danny, he would just tell you straight. He goes, I think your situation is a blessing from the Lord. I don't know any other way to say it, without a doubt. And Lavelle was the same way now.
How'd you feel when they said that?
Well, it made you think. I mean, you couldn't help but. Plus, heck, man, who were our role models besides those guys?
That's right.
And so I respected them. I loved them. I looked up to them, and they were saying stuff that I didn't understand. But I figured if they're telling me this, I better find out a little bit about it. And so, and I had a hard time saying no to those guys. That's bottom line. So they'd tell me stuff, and stuff like, hey, mission is a great opportunity. It's something you should really consider. We think that it's something the Lord wants you to do. And I would just shake my head and go, okay, all right. But then after I left, their presence, there really wasn't much that kept me thinking about it. So they were on me pretty good, pretty regularly. Plus, you guys were, what are you going to do? You going? You staying? What are you going to do? It'll be a great thing. Like, I don't know, man.
Get off my back.
What do you think I should do? No, I didn't care. It wasn't a bother. It was just like, I got to talk to people. And I got to talk to people I trust and love. And, so I'd sit down with you or Rob or LaRon and like I said, you guys would tell me straight.
Danny Frazier had either the blessing or the extreme
cursing. Go ahead and say
whatever.
it was a blessing.
It was a blessing for us. It was, but we, some returned missionaries, friends of mine from my mission, and I lived in some houses up in the Indian Hills, for example, and we invited Danny to come. So here he's not a returned missionary, a few years younger than the rest of us, and he's having to put up with all our parental type advice that was probably unsolicited, but
it was totally unsolicited, but that didn't stop you. But
it didn't, did it?
Perfect examples too, man. Dude, these guys never did anything wrong. And
you
so,
just weren't watching.
I know. I was too busy doing my own wrong crap. But no, it was a perfect storm, probably.
We were blessed. It was great having you there.
Yeah, it was great.
But you chose to go on a mission, and then I heard you're going to Oakland. Now, I'm from Northern California.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Rancho Cordova outside Sacramento, but Oakland was our temple district.
Yeah.
And I knew about Oakland. Oakland's no easy town. So Danny Frazier's called to go to Oakland. How in the world would a black African-American LDS ex-athlete
missionary
be a missionary in Oakland? I mean, if the people in Wyoming were going to call you names, I'm imagining that the people in Oakland might have continued that a little bit.
You know what's funny is there was a little bit of that, but oh man, it was so nice being around black people. I'm just not gonna. I just got to say it. It was so nice being around.
And we were a little bit earlier with Visikahema, and he read a letter that Floyd Johnson shared, and the letter that you're in your postscript or something. You said the field is black, ready to harvest. I love that. You were there with black people in Oakland.
And, it was like family. I didn't really get messed with. And I never had a
so despite the fact you had a white shirt.
And they knew who I was.
And the name tag, you're cool.
Yeah. They were just always wondering who I was and what I was doing.
Really?
And why?
Really?
So I just got a chance to to answer a lot of questions, bear my testimony a bunch, because I didn't know why. I didn't know why blacks couldn't hold the priesthood. And that was a big, big question, obviously.
But by this time, you do hold the priesthood.
Yeah.
But the issue is, why couldn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing we dealt with a lot was, I don't know if you remember Jim Jones. They would always ask us, are you guys a cult?
Oh yeah.
Are you guys a cult like
Yeah.
Jim Jones?
Drink Kool-Aid.
Nah, dude, we're not a cult. So I was always answering those questions, and all I could do really was bear my testimony to people. But I will tell you, one time it got so, I don't know, got to a point where I just had to go, look, man, and this is the way I address God. Look, man, I'm out here doing my best to serve you. And I could just as easily be in school. I could be preparing for another year of football or basketball or something. If this isn't, real, then I'm going home. And I have no problems with that. And, I can just tell you unequivocally, I had the most amazing experience that confirmed to me without a doubt
That you were okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know what to say other than that.
Did your mission president know about your feelings, your concerns?
Oh yeah, we talked all the time about it.
Were you close to him?
You remember, I served in the mission home for a while. You remember Paul Dunn?
I do.
He actually was in the mission home. He was like over our mission, and President Hanson, mission president, then told him about my feelings and stuff. And he came into the mission home one day and sat us down, and we just talked about it straight. And he goes, bottom line answer, we don't know. At that time, he just said, we don't know. He wasn't apologetic.
He was being totally honest, right?
He wasn't
because now when we look back at it,
yeah, now we
don't
know.
know.
Well, we know, but it wasn't.
It wasn't known.
Yeah,
really.
But no, that was his answer.
So how do you feel about that? If someone who you know, like, and respect, not a member of the church, comes and says, Danny, your membership in that church that somehow seems to have some kind of a racist past, I'm not going to say it does, but maybe perceived, what goes through your mind? How do you answer?
It's not even an issue for me anymore. And if anybody were to say anything, I would just, and here's what I kind of do tell them. It's like, hey, maybe he wasn't a racist when Brigham Young made that pronunciation and said that pronounced it. But I tell people, and I'll say it till the day I die. That doesn't mean, you can discount him as a prophet. You deny or you ignore what he says as a prophet at your own risk. And that's the bottom line. He may have done some things that you don't agree with or that may have been screwed up, but I'll tell you right now, you can disregard him as a prophet at your own risk. If this wasn't God's church, I got better things to do with my time and my money and my, and I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't be mad. I just wouldn't do it. That's just the way I am. But
I respect that. Thank you. That's good to know. There's
more to it than that. So I don't know, man. It's just me. But I was going to tell you, I don't know if you remember. You probably don't. But before I got hurt, that previous winter or summer, somewhere in there, I got the Melchizedek priesthood. I was ordained an elder. And I don't know how it happened because I'm sitting in this, I think it was around New Year's, the year before I got hurt. And I was sitting in my apartment and I get this phone call. And it's the secretary for the stake president over the area where I'm living. A dude named Norman Spang was the stake president. And the secretary goes, President Spang would like to see you. President who? I barely knew the structure of the church, much less, anything else. And he goes, yeah, he wants to come see you. And he told me where, and I went. I'm like, all right. And President Spang and I sit down, and he goes, would you like to get the Melchizedek priesthood? And I'm like, but he's shaking his head going, yeah, you do. Yeah. And so I said, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do.
He prompted you.
Yeah. And so before that season started, I was ordained an elder by him. And I have no doubt that that's part of what I believe, at least, made the incident, the injury and stuff, potentially at least less of an issue than it could otherwise have been. That's just my feeling.
And Danny, you have led a life, especially through your family, through your children. I mean, I think it's Jameson, right, who's an attorney in New York.
Yeah.
You say he's making real money.
Oh, yeah, he's a real attorney.
He's a real attorney.
But he's a real football player too, man.
And he did. I remember watching him play, and I was so proud of you watching your son out on the field for BYU.
Yeah, you
How
can't
cool
be
was
anything
that?
but gratified,
That was
man.
so fun.
He did everything that I did, but times 10.
But they weren't calling him Spider-Man. I remember we called you
No.
because of your arms spread and how you just covered so much. You were Spider-Man.
I know, I was nuts.
We're talking to Spider-Man
I
here.
know.
And you still are, Mr. Frazier.
Yeah, well, luckily don't spread that around. But nah, man, we could do this all day, Lace.
could.
We got stories we
We'd
haven't
start-
even touched
If
on.
we haven't bored everybody to death
I know.
already,
I know.
I'm kidding.
You got to do some good editing, you know, 'cause
Hey, Danny, I had my roommates who were ex-missionary companions of mine from Costa Rica. One of them, well, you talked about LaRon Anderson. He goes now by David LaRon Anderson. And then we had Chris Brady. We also had Rob Lennon, who's a judge. And since you're an attorney, you have to be very deferential to him, right?
I do.
Do you really?
I do.
All right.
And I am. I got to admit, I love the dude. He's a great guy. And he's a really good judge too. And I'm not saying that because he may just get wind of this somehow. No, no, but he is. He's a good dude. He's a good judge. But and we've reminisced a few times.
You and Rob have.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So
how are we reminiscing?
A few times we've been in court, and he's alluded to the fact that we were roomies. And, you know, you don't want to go into that too far for fear that somebody's going to go, conflict,
Right.
he's getting favoritism.
Right.
But no, Rob's never, Judge Lunnon, has never given me a break or anything in relation to that I haven't seen him, or any type of concession I haven't seen him give any other attorney. But we were in court one day and went off the record for a bit. And part of the reason we went off the record is because he talked to me about a incident between you, Mike Lacey, and him, Rob Lennon, when you guys were roomies. And Judge Lennon swears that you guys laid out 40 yards on the street somewhere and proceeded to race. And you said, man, you can't keep up with me. And Rob said, oh, yeah, I can and I will. And Judge Lennon says that he outran you.
He's told me the same thing. I never lost a race back then. So I'm saying this must have been in my dreams or something. But it's funny that he's told you the same thing that he claims. But you and I have run before. I mean, Danny Frazier, one of the fastest guys on BYU's football team. And who was it? Was it Dick Feld?
Yeah, Coach Feld had us out there running 40s.
With a bunch of DBs, right?
I think it was a bunch of DBs. Yeah.
Yeah,
or at least
so
receiver types or something.
Guys who have to be fast.
And so we're running, and I hate to admit it, but we did it more than once. And we line up, and he's got his stopwatch and clicks it. We take off. And Lace, man, I had you for probably 30, maybe 32 of the 40 yards. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're freaking coming up, and you would get me we raced twice, but you got me twice. by like a step. And I don't know where you got that from. And I had no more left.
It's that last name. I think I do have some African American in me. I'm serious. And I ran track in high school, and I was literally the only white dude that lined up for the 100. Back then, it was the 100-yard dash.
Yeah.
And I was like, at least a head taller than everybody else too.
And you would get faster as we got further down the track, and so I would have you by at least 2 yards. Not only would you catch me, but you would pass me. It was maybe no more than a step, maybe 2.
You had elite speed.
Yeah.
We both were
I ran
grateful.
like a deer.
We were, what fun days.
Yeah.
But I think it's 2 against 1. There's no way Judge Lunnon. I mean, I think
I can't see.
probably 99.9% of the time he's right.
Yeah.
Thank
you. I'll go along with that too.
Danny Frazier, it is a joy to be together with you today. Thank you for your time.
It's a blast.
You are a good man, a gentleman, and a successful attorney. Thank you for all you do.
And we're having fun too. This is fun.
Absolutely.
This is fun.
All right.
So yeah, we'll have to do it again. Talk more about other stuff, extracurricular,
that'd be good.
non-football related stuff, because we've got a bunch of junk.
Talk
there.
business and law and
No. Just back in the day when we would do crazy stuff. We still got stories.
those
we
were
could
good
discuss.
days.
Yeah.